No matter how cold it has been or just how much snow we've had, there's always a few ducks and geese that endure the winter weather and stay here in North Dakota. Joining us with the details is biologist Doug Leier with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Thanks for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Let's talk a little bit about what keeps the birds here.
It really comes down to having open water and available food. We always think of when we see birds around, whether it's songbirds or ducks and geese, kind of like, why would you stick around?
Yeah, right.
If you could fly south, why wouldn't you fly south? And it's not a blanket that all of the ducks and geese stay if we have open water and a food source, but there's always going to be probably more than we actually would suspect in terms of numbers of ducks and geese that stick around. So it's almost kind of, in a way, it's also kind of like for you and I, like, hey, yeah, they can tough it out, we can tough it out. It's not that bad. If the ducks and geese aren't leaving, then we can feel okay that we're sticking it around and toughing it out through the winter as well, Lisa.
So talking about numbers, let's talk a little bit about the midwinter survey and what you found.
Right, we do a midwinter waterfowl survey. We do it in North Dakota. It's part of a nationwide survey that is done to kind of assess migration patterns. And typically we see the most amount of ducks and geese, like along the Missouri River in Lake Sakakawea. It's done in the early part of January, and actually Lake Sakakawea wasn't iced over until January 11th. As much cold and snow as that we had. So when we look at the numbers and we compare them like to last year, it does indicate that maybe our winter was a little bit colder. We had fewer geese than last year and fewer than the long-term average is a little over 100,000 Canada geese that stick around. So we kind of can use that as maybe a winter severity type of an index when we have fewer ducks and geese sticking around than what we had last year, and then compared to the 10-year average, Lisa.
Well, that's interesting. So how do you then use this information?
Right, and we use that to set migration patterns and to determine what we have for populations. The number of birds that are sticking around, we can see, okay, we have an early Canada goose season that opens up in August in terms of limits and population surveys, and we can see what happens locally. We have stretches along the Red River in Grand Forks and in Fargo, and determining what we have for an urban population of geese during the winter time. So there's a lot of different components that come into it, and it is kind of cool to see that we're not the only ones that are sticking around this winter, Lisa.
And so looking at this, you're not concerned about numbers. It's more how the weather plays into the migration.
Right. It's not as, we can see over the course of time that we have more Canada geese. Our population has been growing. So it's kind of like an all-encompassing, it's a nationwide survey, and it's always kind of interesting to take a look at it, see what we have in North Dakota in our own backyard.
Doug Leier with North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.